Hello, Gareth here, and I'm going to paint some rice fields in the mountains. So this is going to be just a relaxing painting session, so I hope you enjoy it. So I'm going to begin with the sky. And this painting is a commission. So recently I did an exhibition and a couple came, and the man commissioned me to do a painting of his hometown, which is called Shonai. I've been there quite a few times actually and painted there, but I've never seen this scene before, and it's beautiful. So he gave me a photograph, but that photograph was taken on a cloudy day, and he asked me to do an evening scene. He saw one of my paintings that had a lovely orange sky at evening time, and he wanted me to do that kind of sky. And also his 3 children. What a lucky guy, 3 children. His 3 children are in the painting, and he wanted me to include them. There's also a car, and he said, please don't paint the car. And that's fine with me, car or no car. So I used a big mop brush, and I keep the whole thing wet with my spray bottle. But it's nice, it's Saturday night, and it's nice just to have some quiet and and to paint. It really is very, very relaxing. The tricky thing with skies is to make sure you leave a lot. It's very easy to just cover everything, and it happens so quickly. And I'm going to have these clouds merging into the background mountain. So this place, Shonai, is is a very beautiful place, and one of the things that makes it so beautiful are all the mountains around there. So I've got these clouds merging into that background mountain. Lovely. And now I've come upon the next tricky thing, which is here. We've got some rice fields here, but I'm going to do a few lines here, but I might need to let it dry a little bit more before I do them. Yes, I went to this place, Shonai, last year with my family, and we went to pick pears. So it's famous for pears. They're a bit different to the normal type you get in Europe. They're a round pear, but very tasty. Yeah, that was a lovely family day out. Now this mountain or hillside is a bit closer, and so I'm doing it a bit darker. Okay, I'm going to do that now. I've got this lovely liner brush, which I'll use. I do a lot of squinting to see what the overall thing looks like, and that looks lovely. I really like the way that's turned out. And then, where is it? My cat's tongue, or pointed oval. I like this brush a lot. So now in Japan, the rainy season has come. and it gradually becomes more and more unpleasant. But at the moment it's just the early days, and although it began, it suddenly stopped for a few days and the sun came out and the weather has been absolutely lovely. And on Monday the weather's going to be nice, and although there's a lot of work I really need to do, things to catch up on, I think I might go out with my drone and get some interesting shots from which to do a new painting. Okay, so I think that looks quite nice. It's got lovely feeling to it. I'm just not sure what to do here. Okay, I think I'll spray it. Gives me some time to think about my next move. Maybe it needs to be green fields here. I think what I'm going to do is let it dry and just have a think. I might just try and soften these edges a little. Yep. Yeah, let's leave it to dry and have a think. Okay, it has now dried and I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do these fields, and they're watery rice fields, and I'm going to do the reflection of the sky in them, but very simple. And then while that's drying, I'm going to work on the grass here. So here we go then. So I think I'm just going to wet this. Here it's grass. Okay, then let's get some orange. And maybe should have left it white here, so it would have been a good reflection of that. Okay, I can do that in a future painting. That might mean I need to paint it again. I'm not sure if I've got the enthusiasm to paint this picture again. This is the fourth painting. I do overdo things. Maybe that's perfectionism. And I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not. Maybe there's just pros and cons at the end of the day. You can develop through painting a scene again and again, and it doesn't have to be boring because you can change things. So when I first did this painting, this actually wasn't a watery rice field, it was a normal dry rice field, and so I changed that, and so in a way it became a different picture. But it helped me to develop my abilities, like painting that sky again and the clouds going into the mountains. And so I think a little bit of repetition in that way, if it's done carefully and doesn't become tiresome, can be good. And I also think painting the same thing again, but developing it and changing it, can also be good for your creative abilities. It can develop your creative abilities and make you think in a more creative way. At least those are some of the ideas I have. That said, sometimes I paint a picture just one time and it works, and that's wonderful. And so you do get those one-offs, and sometimes you'll get a feeling, at least I do, to paint something, and it's really good to go with that. And I'll keep saying that again and again, because that's a very important point. And another important point about doing a painting more than once is that sometimes it just won't work. And I've had that experience. I've tried really hard to make a certain painting work. It's almost been like an act of willpower, and I think in some respects I was wasting my time, because there just was something wrong. Either I didn't have the ability yet, or that particular subject just wasn't going to work. And I'm not always sure which it is. So now I'm doing these dry rice fields here. And the important point with these is keep it simple and keep it wet. So now and again I'll spray it. I like that reflection there. It's a bit strong, but once we add the grassy banks, it will look a lot softer. I think. We will see. Okay. So I don't think there's a right or a wrong about painting a picture more than once. It's something I tend to do. I might change at some point in the future. And I do think it has helped me tremendously. So I did this series actually of a place called Sasebo in Nagasaki prefecture. And you've got many islands there, over 200, and it's a beautiful place. And I spent a long time trying to get like a sparkling sea effect, and I think it was worth it, and the results that I got were really outstanding, and people noticed, and even my wife, who doesn't normally talk much about my work or say much, mentioned how good those paintings looked. And so I think that's kind of confirmation. But my But my only doubts about that is sometimes you do lose the, what would you call it? You lose the spark, the enthusiasm. And I do think that that can be important because it does get conveyed into your work. So I think if you do become too like practicing something again and again, I'm not sure if in painting that always works. So there you go. I'm completely muddying up the whole what I just said, but why not? Because you have to decide. You have to work it out for yourself, and that is the best way. You might think you just want a straight answer, but trust me, it's better that you work it out yourself and you find out for yourself. Both ways, just doing a painting one time, a one-off, and doing it more than once, both ways have their advantages. And oh yeah, and the other point is if you become perfectionist, which I do have that problem, I really do, and I've come to the conclusion that perfectionism is almost like, it can become a form of, well, it can be just the worst thing in the world. It's probably much better just to do rubbish and just throw it out there than to become too focused on doing something brilliant. Because to be honest, and I can talk about this in many different ways, and I'm probably going to lose my thread here as well because I'm trying to paint too. Yeah, I'm going to do shadowy areas here now. And the important thing about the shadowy areas is not to do too many. Yeah, you can become perfectionist when you do a series, and you really have to be careful about that, because even if you do get really good at painting a particular scene, then how do you feel when you move on to a totally different thing and you paint it badly? And it's not at the same level. So that can happen, and you can get these terrible doubts about yourself. Am I a good painter or not? And that's what concerns me about perfectionism, because as long as you keep painting, great works will pop out. They'll just appear. You can't always control it, and they can also be a mixed bag, partly brilliant, partly flawed. But even the flawed paintings can be good and can express something, and I think it's so important to live with that, because it depends on your philosophy, but for me, I do want to grow and do different things and just try things, not even just for the sake of like the challenge, but just for the fun in keeping the life and the energy in your work by doing different things and experimenting. And it's just logical that if you do experiment, you're going to fail. And you really need, in a psychological sense, to be really okay with that if you can. And that's not always easy, because you can have parts of you that just find that hard to accept. But the more you, I don't know what it is, it's not exactly a practice, but yeah, the more you experiment, you just keep painting, putting the effort in and putting your work out there in public places, then the more you just get comfortable with the failures. And for me anyway, I do think perfectionism is a dead end, because it can easily lead to you getting very good at certain things and then you don't try other things, and you can become very narrow, and that is a kind of death, I think. But just my thoughts here, guys. Not like I'm not Solomon, although his wisdom never helped him. I'm not sure if he really was so wise. If God blessed him with wisdom, I'm not sure I really want many blessings from God, because his life was absolutely disastrous and he totally destroyed his nation. So yeah. I suppose for me now, with my art and with what I do, the things that I really value are experimenting and showing up and doing the work and showing it to people and having the courage to do that. And accepting, just basically accepting my flawedness, just that I'm a human being, I make mistakes, my work sometimes is not perfect, sometimes it's rubbish, and to be honest, that's what I really admire in myself, because if I could go back to who I was when I was younger and look at my work then, I'd probably say, that's awful. And if I had been like that, I never would have developed. So you need that arrogance, that boldness, whatever it is, I don't know what it is, but it's not simply effort. Effort is so important, but you've got to have that boldness so that even when you make mistakes, you'll even show it. You don't care about showing it, and you carry on moving forward. And I think that, for me, is the essence of success. If you can be like that, then I think that is success. I quite like that. Yeah, the thought in my head is, it's not perfect though. You see? It's always going to be like that. It's not perfect. And this is maybe what I'm going to say now is perhaps the most important thing upon this subject of like painting, and that is I've begun to believe that the real great stuff happens in the failures, that it's actually the mistakes. It's in the mistakes that you learn. And so I don't feel quite so unhappy now about making mistakes, because I know sometimes that in that mistake there's something new for me to learn, and that altered attitude, it makes all the difference in the world. You've got to gradually change your mind so that it goes from being this really difficult thing that almost is like your own enemy into becoming your own best friend. You really need to work on being your best friend, and all I can add to that is it takes time though. The way you think, the patterns of thinking you have, like I'll never be a good artist, or whatever it is, or whatever gets you down, stops you working, depresses you, they will continue for a while. You have to try and get that logically, rationally. because the emotions control everything, I think, and they just overwhelm us. But if we can just remember, as our emotions and patterns of thinking, strong ingrained patterns of thinking, get us down and give us a sense of no hope, we just have to remember that bit by bit I'm going to become my own best friend. Like for example, this is what I say to myself: if I screw up this painting, but then I go on and paint it again, for me, that's heroic. That is really heroic, because I'm in the pits of failure, but instead of letting it get me down, I'm moving on. And you will get that voice in your head which will say, that's rubbish, or you'll not get better, or whatever it is. But bit by bit, you just put these new thoughts in your head, like, no, I am going to get good, and I'm going to enjoy painting, and even if it fails, I'm going to learn from these failures and develop and grow and just enjoy it. Oh, I like that. It really is about altered attitudes. I need to relax a bit more and enjoy the painting. So use this liner brush and just water, and you can get lovely thin hairs appearing. Yeah, so I had another thought, which is many people see artists as egotistical types or self-indulgent, right? But in many ways, and that's probably true, because to be honest, we all are. We all have that within us, and we can't really control that. We feel so bad about that, but we don't realise how nature has made us like that. And to not be like that would be, maybe there'd be something not working quite correctly in your brain if you weren't like that. Comparing ourselves with other people is, to be honest, a natural mental process and a way of seeing if we're doing things correctly or not, and just a basic survival process. And as artists we can be like that as well, but hopefully we can learn to detach from that. We can learn just to feel okay whatever, and not let art become like this painful thing about if we ever get good then it will somehow make us more, I don't know, acceptable or a success or whatever. Some deluded kind of idea, right? I'm quite happy with this. Okay, let's leave that to dry. Now this has dried, and I'm going to do this bit next. So, what brush? I think I'll use my pointed oval. So, and just thinking about the colour. So it's going to be a green, but not too bright, because it's a bit far away from us. And over here it's a bit darker, apart from these light areas where the rice fields are. It's a beautiful day today here in Japan. Soon I'm going to go out and paint. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to go out and use my drone and get some, hopefully some nice images by the river. So I'm not copying exactly how these rice fields looked in the photo. I think in Japan they tend to be kind of sticklers for that kind of thing. Like things being perfectly correct, perfectly true. It's almost like, sometimes I think it's almost like a moral value, if you understand what I'm saying, that it's truly representational. And I get that, I just don't agree with it. It's like when people talk about not using white, opaque white with watercolor. I get it, it's a transparent medium, but at the end of the day, white does work amazingly well. And you get people who are so strong about that. They're so almost religious. But what does it matter? What does it really matter? But for them, fair enough. But for me, I know that white is so useful, opaque white. And it really can turn an ordinary painting into something amazing, absolutely amazing. Oh yeah, I quite like that. Okay, so let's do some lines. Sometimes some of the lines are wrong, but you don't really have to worry about it if most of the lines are right, because they'll kind of disappear. It will be difficult to see the wrong ones unless they're pointed out. So as long as you get most of them roughly correct, a few wrong ones is fine. Oh, I think that looks quite nice. And these lines here, I'm just guessing. Perhaps I have looked at quite a few rice fields over the years, so that maybe is helping, I'm not sure. And I'm going to do a dark mark here where the field bank, and the reflection where they meet. It's drying out very quickly. So sometimes my line isn't exactly in the right place, but as long as most of it is, you can get away with it. Okay, now let's paint the children. Which brush? Okay, maybe my bamboo one. And let's do a dark mix. Oh, and I need to do those buildings. I'll do that in a minute. One of the things I love about this painting is the viewpoint. The children are very high up, and it's quite a strange viewpoint of looking down upon mountain ranges, like one here, one here. And another problem I had was with the shadows. The shadows of these figures. Because they're running down a hill, and so it's not a flat surface, and so on a steep slope you can get a shortened surface, a shortened shadow. So normally at evening time the shadows become longer, but if you're looking at an object on a slanted surface, then the shadows do interesting things. The direction of them and the length of them changes. So I think I'm ready now to do the shadows. it's really important to keep these shadows in the same direction and have them all being short. Oh, that's quite nice. And then it really is, making good art is really all about boldness, I suppose, which I don't think it's something I've actually got a lot of, but you can develop it. Okay, that's nice. I think I'll leave it like that. And then here I'm going to do some trees and houses. So these are very dark. Yeah, I guess if I'm being honest, one of the most difficult things for me about art is learning that a certain kind of indifference or boldness or even arrogance, you could even say arrogance, is so helpful. And it's not something I want to say. What I'd like to say is being careful, wanting to make something brilliant, and although I guess that could be vanity. But ironically, not caring too much about the end result makes you a much better painter, much better. Or you paint so much that basically it's like cooking, and it's like you're just mixing ingredients. Sometimes it really feels like I'm cooking, just adding this to this, and I'm going to get this kind of result. And I think that's a kind of, that's a sign maybe of mastery, I think, when it becomes like cooking. I can't quite work out this roof at the moment. I'm going to change it. It got a lot smaller, didn't it? Ooh, and I went over it. But by using some white, I can easily correct that. Okay, I think that looks not too bad. And that looks pretty nice. So, I'm just checking the video is still working. To be honest, the hardest thing for me is not the painting, it's the technical side. I have such enormous problems doing the videoing and recording, to be honest, especially the audio. The audio, I have to admit, is an absolute nightmare. And for some reason, no matter what kind of thing I buy, like I bought a sound recorder, a special sound recorder, just to give me lovely sound and none of that background hiss. And guess what? The last video I did had a big hissing sound on it, so I don't know what that is. And it is a real, it's a stress. But I'm just going to have to live with it for now. But it really got to me, if I'm being honest. Because you listen to other people's videos on YouTube and sometimes they're not using a mic or anything, just their cell phone, and the sound is not too bad. But for some reason when I do videos, I get this shh, like I'm on an airplane. Okay. And maybe one of the hardest things for me to do is to make these videos if they're going to sound like that. But I'm going to persevere, and I just say to myself, one day the sound will be beautiful. One day it will sound good. And look at that. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's nice. So the final thing I'm going to do is a little bit of highlighting. So again, I'm thinking once again about technical things rather than the actual painting, and I'm thinking about, can I get it all done on one clip, because it really is hard having all these little clips that you've got to organise on your iPhone and whatever. It can become very confusing. So here we go, I'm using titanium white. I love this. You have to always be careful of water here when you use a liner brush. You need to wipe that because you can get drops of water there and they'll run down onto your paper and they can cause quite a mess. So here we go. E. Although this brush is thin, it's not always as thin as I want it to be. Okay, I think that will do. And then these buildings, I might clean them up a little bit. So a bit of my white and maybe a little bit of orange. Mix that up. Yeah, one of the problems for me with doing this video is I don't quite have the same boldness as when I'm just painting by myself. But that will come with time. Oh, that looks neat. Because artists are not simply just egotists, which we all are really. They're quite brave because they put themselves out there and people can just criticize them, and it can feel very vulnerable, although that's just an illusion, but it can feel like that. So in that respect, they are very brave, I suppose. I'm not too sure about what I'm doing here, but I'm just going with it anyway. I'm kind of happy I'm doing something a little bit daring there. It really is quite hot today. I'm actually sweating a bit. There's a little bit of paint there, but I actually quite like that. It actually works, but it's a mistake. So like I said, these mistakes, they can work. So I think basically that's it. I think it's done. I could add some details here to this path, but I think it would be overdoing it. One thing I might do is I might make the road grey. Yeah. That could be a big mistake, but let's have a go. Yeah, it can be quite, the technical side of doing this, of videoing yourself, can be quite nerve-wracking, because the last video I did, when I was like just doing this, washing my brush in the bucket, the sound was absolutely, it was so loud, and yet my voice which is right next to the microphone, was very quiet. So I couldn't work that out. That was beyond me, why it would capture that sound so clearly, so well, but my voice just sounded so difficult to hear, so quiet. Okay, there we go. There's the road. And I think that's got quite a nice feeling to it. And I think that's it. I can't believe I've finished. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to make these videos relaxing and enjoyable, and I hope as you watch it you can maybe you can enjoy some peaceful time, and you can enjoy some of the beauty of the Japanese landscape. So that's all. Bye for now, and hopefully I'll be back soon with another video. Finished.